You look like organized crime.
You all right?
Show me your ID, now.
You better watch what you're saying.
Don't argue with me. ID,
I'm a federal
now.
agent. You need to step back.
I don't care who you claim to be. Show me your
I'm
ID.
a federal agent. You're out of line.
Out of the car, now.
This traffic stop lasted less than 5 minutes, but it ended a career. Not because of violence, not because of a weapon, because of words and a body camera that never stopped recording. On a quiet rural road in the United States, a police officer decided he knew exactly who he was dealing with. He was wrong. Very wrong. The man in the driver's seat didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten anyone. He didn't reach for anything. But the officer didn't care. Because once assumptions take over, professionalism disappears. And when power meets the wrong assumption, the camera tells the truth, long after the shouting stops. It was late afternoon on a rural stretch of road in the American South. 2 lanes, trees, heat shimmering off the asphalt. The kind of place where the loudest sound is usually your own tires. A marked patrol car sits behind a dark luxury sedan, lights flashing, red, blue, reflections sliding across the window like a warning that never stops repeating itself. The officer behind the chest camera is Officer Clay Mercer. Fictional name, fictional town, but a very real type of confidence. He walks like this stop belongs to him, like the road belongs to him, like the next 60 seconds are going to be easy. Inside the sedan is Evan Hart, well-dressed, older, calm, the kind of person who looks like he has meetings instead of problems. He has that expression people get when they're trying to decide if they're annoyed or if they should start recording with their phone too. The officer closes distance fast, not cautious, not curious, fast. And that's your first clue. When an officer approaches like the stop is already a fight, the conversation starts in the wrong place. Driver's license, now. Not sir, not good afternoon, not reason for the stop, just now. Evan looks up and responds with something that should be harmless, but in certain moments, harmless words are treated like disrespect. Watch your tone. And right there, that's the spark. Because watch your tone doesn't challenge the law, it challenges ego. And ego is fragile. The officer's response is immediate. No, ID now. This is how escalation really begins. Not with a punch, not with a weapon, with tone, with speed, with someone deciding, I'm not going to be questioned today. Now here's the first darkly funny part. Funny in the way you laugh when you're uncomfortable. Because what the officer is doing isn't clever, it isn't tactical, it's basic. It's like he's playing a video game stuck on one button. Press X to demand ID. Press X again. Press X harder. Evan's jaw tightens. He leans forward slightly, and he says it, calm, clipped, unmistakable. I'm a federal agent. That sentence should change the entire atmosphere, because it's not a threat, it's a signal. It's basically saying, slow down, verify. You're stepping into something bigger than your mood. But the officer doesn't verify. He escalates. I don't care who you claim to be. That line is going to age like milk. The camera shakes as the officer leans closer, closing the distance like distance itself is an argument. This is the part people watching later will fight about in the comments. One side will say, just show your ID, why argue? The other side will say, why is the officer acting like that? And the body cam will sit quietly in the corner of the internet, thinking, I recorded the whole thing, you can stop guessing. Because the truth is, this is not about identification. This is about control. And control is addictive. The officer's breathing gets louder on the microphone. That's another clue. Adrenaline is up. And when adrenaline is up, patience is down. Evan repeats himself. I said I'm a federal agent. Now let's talk about the psychology for a second. When you're dealing with authority, there's 2 ways a moment like this can go. Option 1, the officer slows down, verifies, keeps it professional. Option 2, the officer takes it personally. And nothing, Nothing makes a person take something personally, like the feeling that they're being challenged in public. Because public is the real stage here. Even if nobody's standing on the roadside, the officer knows the camera is watching. And if the officer forgets that, the internet will remind him. Out of the car, now. That command isn't about safety anymore. It's about winning. And the scary part is how normal that sounds in the moment. People hear commands like that and think, okay, the officer must have a reason. But sometimes the reason is simply, I'm not losing control today. Evan doesn't move immediately. He hesitates. Not in a defiant way, in a calculated way. Like someone thinking, if I move wrong, this becomes a headline. And that hesitation makes the officer angrier, because hesitation is interpreted as resistance. The officer's voice gets louder. Now the stop is no longer procedural, it's emotional. And emotional policing is where mistakes are born. This is where the body cam becomes brutal. It captures the unfiltered moment before anyone thinks about how it looks later. And it looks bad. Evan tries to keep his voice controlled, but you can hear the edge. You're out of line. That phrase lands like gasoline, because the officer doesn't hear it as feedback, he hears it as disrespect. The officer's stance changes, hand near the belt, feet planted wider, upper body leaning forward. That posture says, I'm ready for this to become physical. And physical is the point of no return. Here's the dark humor again, because what the officer is doing is basically yelling at a man who's sitting down. If you step back and look at it objectively, it's ridiculous. A grown man in a uniform shouting, trying to win a contest of dominance against a person trapped in a seatbelt. And yet it's terrifying, because the person shouting is allowed to decide what happens next. That's the power imbalance. The officer repeats the accusation. He doesn't call it mafia like a cartoon villain, but he uses the kind of language that implies it. You look like you're involved in something. Translation, I made a story up in my head, and now you have to pay for it. Evan snaps back. You can't just say that. The officer cuts him off. I can say whatever I want. And here's the part that should make your stomach tighten, because whether he can say it or not, he just did, and the camera just captured it. The stop continues to spiral, not because of evidence, not because of danger, because neither man wants to give up the last word. Evan is angry because he's being humiliated. The officer is angry because he's being challenged, and the body cam is quietly collecting every word like a receipt printer. Then comes the sound that changes everything. Radio static. The officer keys his mic. He calls in the plate. And now the system, the boring, slow paperwork part, enters the scene. And that's where things get funny again, in a painfully real way. Because bureaucracy doesn't care about ego. Bureaucracy doesn't care about yelling. Bureaucracy cares about facts. Dispatch comes back with something that makes the officer's breathing pause. Not a long message, not a dramatic speech, just the kind of calm response that says, "Sir, you may want to lower your voice." The officer doesn't lower his voice yet, but you can hear the shift. His confidence flickers. This is the moment when the officer realizes there is a possibility, just a possibility, that he is wrong. And being wrong is one thing. Being wrong on camera is another. Being wrong on camera yelling, that's a career event. Evan doesn't gloat. He doesn't have to. He just repeats the line again, slower, heavier. I'm a federal agent. Now the officer finally does what he should have done at second 2. He verifies. He asks for credentials, but he asks them in a different tone now. Less command, more careful. And this is the key lesson. The tone didn't change because the officer suddenly became professional. The tone changed because the officer suddenly became afraid. Afraid of consequences, afraid of being wrong, afraid of what the camera caught. Evan produces credentials carefully, slow movements, clear placement, no sudden reach. The officer looks, and you can almost feel the air leave the scene. That's the moment the officer realizes this man is not who he assumed. And the funniest part, the officer's entire "I don't care who you are" speech collapses instantly, because now he cares a lot. He cares so much it's practically audible. This is when people often expect a dramatic apology, but real life doesn't always do dramatic. Real life does awkward. Real life does silence. Real life does a man in a uniform trying to rewind time with his face. The officer mutters something like, "Okay, all right." That's not an apology. That's a person realizing they can't undo what they just did, because the body cam already recorded it. And that's what makes this story so exposed. Not the fact that someone made a mistake. People make mistakes. It's that the mistake wasn't a technical error. It was a behavior, a pattern, a decision to assume, a decision to escalate, a decision to treat someone like a suspect without proving they were one. And yes, people will argue about that too. But the